Nations is the world's leading independent developer of volatility indexes. Nations volatility indexes were created to measure important elements of equity market implied volatility and to measure implied volatility in a manner consistent with how market participants gauge and use implied volatility. Unlike other measures of implied volatility, the nation's volatility indexes measure volatility at important points across the implied volatility skew, generating a suite of indexes that investors and traders can use to implement focused strategies. Nations offers 3 volatility indexes covering all important parts of the volatility skew. Nations Voldex is an improved measure of market expectations for near-term volatility as conveyed by S&P 500 ETF option prices. Voldex calculates implied volatility the way practitioners do, by focusing on at-the-money options, the most important options listed. The ticker symbol for Nations Large Cap Voldex is VOLI. VOLI is calculated and disseminated continually during the trading day to provide up-to-the-second insight into market expectations for near-term volatility. Since 2005, VOLI has measured the fear and uncertainty in the U.S. equity markets. And with the commencement of real-time calculation and dissemination in 2014, it has assisted traders and speculators by providing a clearer, more logical measure of near-term expectations for stock market volatility. Nation SKEWDEX measures the amount of skew in S&P ETF options. Skew is an important measure of relative expectations for market volatility and traders' willingness to assume risk. SKEWDEX provides this insight by comparing the implied volatility of a precisely at-the-money option to that of a put option struck precisely 1 standard deviation out of the money, allowing us a determination of the demand for hedging by investors and their willingness to suffer losses before protection provided by hedging options begins. The ticker symbol for the nation's large cap SKEWDEX is SDEX. SKEWDEX is calculated and disseminated continually during the trading day to provide up-to-the-second insight into demand for hedging options. Since 2005, SKEWDEX has measured the relative demand for put options by hedgers in the U.S. equity markets. Starting with the commencement of real-time calculation and dissemination in 2014, SKEWDEX has offered hedgers a measure of the best value in hedging instruments while guiding speculators to the most profitable sections of the S&P volatility skew. Nations TailDex is the only true measure of the market's perceptions concerning the likelihood of a tail event, a drop in the stock market of at least 3 standard deviations. Such tail events have an outsized impact on long-term stock market returns, so they're of critical importance to investors. Nations TailDex explains in a clear, intuitive way how much equity index option markets are willing to pay for protection from such an event. The ticker symbol for the nation's large cap TailDex is TDEX. TailDex is calculated and disseminated continually during the trading day to give up-to-the-second insight into the likelihood of an extreme event, as well as the cost of options that would protect investors against such an event. Since 2005, TailDex has measured the cost of hedging against such an extreme event, and starting with the commencement of real-time calculation and dissemination in 2014, TailDex has offered the best measure of the amount of fear in U.S. equity markets, allowing investors to hedge sensibly. The entire roster of nations' volatility indexes is applicable to every optionable asset class. We currently calculate all 3 on a variety of domestic and international ETFs or indexes, including SPY, the S&P 500 ETF, as well as ETFs on the Russell 2000 Index, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the NASDAQ 100 Index, as well as the FTSE 100 Index in London, the CAC index in France, the DAX index in Germany, the Hang Seng index in Hong Kong, and the Nikkei index in Japan. Volatility derivatives are the fastest growing asset class, and Nations is the largest independent developer of these improved measures of volatility. Measures that will allow investors and speculators to tailor trading to their point of view. Nations Volatility Indexes. Better ideas, better indexes.